got to be videotaped for YouTube, which was really, really cool. It was so awesome to be able to hear him perform. And I hear this is his week for performing because he was over or will be over at First Fridays. I'm trying to remember the days. You'll have to tell us all about this. But this man is an awesome poet. I love hearing his voice, and I'm so thrilled that he can share our stage for the speech this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our preacher this evening, Bill Yarrow. Yeah!
All right, hi everybody. Thank you for hanging in there. Okay, I'm going to read a few poems tonight. The first one is called Before the Door. It appeared in Atticus Review. Before the Door. You just can't believe your key won't open the front door anymore. Determined to prove reality wrong, you board a flight to Budapest and walk wet streets in search of a keyhole you're convinced exists. And when you find it on the side door of the Nikolai Bakery, your wry heart, wrapped with vindication, laughs heartily. The key works. It really works. But you don't enter. You don't dare. Time passes. The seasons alter. The world gives birth to triplets. People drop hot pennies into your hat. From a new chapbook just came out from Naked Mannequin Press. Thank you, Matt Martin. It's called 14. I have copies available if you're interested, and it's 14-line poems, so I'll read a few of those from it. This is called Hitting the Wall. I hadn't seen her since Carter was president. Everything about her had turned white, even her beauty marks. I faced her strangeness and fumbled for the past. The time we went crabbing on the Chesapeake, her imitation of Nelson Mandela, playing lawn darts at my mom's. I tried to talk, but only whispers slithered out. She pretended to understand what I was saying, and then said, "Wasn't it fungible to have run across each other?" Fungible, I questioned. She slapped me, hard. Then her perfume returned with a vengeance.
Oh.
This one's called The Proud Accounting. It also appears in the magazine Lit Snack. You were the first to be found head down in the sewage of what we do for a living. But time will purify that. Your wife is losing weight in the hope that Greek will make her body attractive, and it will. She is radiantly unhappy without you, but worst off is your daughter, wrapped in the newspaper that announced your death. She walks alone in black high heels down the corridor of sterile engagement. This one is called Joan of Dark. It's a dialogue between an older man and a young girl. Joan of Dark. What happens in heaven stays in heaven. That's not true, she said to me. You know it's not true. Yes, the acts of paradise, slippery like syrup, slide down the clouds and drip onto the tops of the trees where birds and squirrels reveal them to man. What color are the birds, she asked. Pink. The pink birds and checkerboard squirrels reveal the sly doings of the chubby cherubs. What sly doings? I meant sky doings. Reveal the sky doings of the half-pint angels. I love heaven, don't you? I'm not allowed to tell. They will burn me at the stake if I tell. Like Joan of Dark? Just like Joan of Dark. And this one, the final one from 14, this is called Eyes Off the Road. One by one, I lost my desires. Dirty ambition left first. Knowledge raged, but then it cooled. Riches never had the hook very deep. Achievement uncoupled from success seemed pointless. Friendship became recursive. Appetite lost its urgency. Form declined into artifice. Love stopped feeding me, so I stopped feeding it. Insight evaporated when memory left. Lust lingered longest. My desires, gaily arrayed, bolted to a lapis slab, await me in heaven. With any luck, I'll go to hell. This poem is called The Lost Boys. It appeared in a magazine called Right Hand Pointing. The Lost Boys. They live in Colorado, in Washington State, Alabama, and the Carolinas. They squeak by on sad inheritances and pristine discards. Every day hurts a little, but not enough. So dreams billow in and smother ideas. Meanwhile, the body does its daily dance alone. It's a neutral life, frighteningly fun. One fills one's lungs with schadenfreude. Two finds the missile hidden in the boot. Tomorrow will be incandescent, but if it isn't, who will remember to regret? Day bleeds into day and eventually clots into a life. Remember what Eminem taught. Let your longing be your GPS. This poem appeared in Thunderclap. It's called Demolition Derby. The goal of the demolition derby is to crash into all the other trucks as hard as you can without destroying your own vehicle. Sounds a lot like capitalism. I should have said that to my sons as we were sitting in the stands waiting for the vehicle melee to commence. Beside us were ornery women in tall hats, suspended dads, kids deformed with ribbons, rural Lotharios, tattooed grandmas, livestock lawyers, reverse cowboys, and young men carbuncular. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit away from the wire fence. We're otherwise not responsible for the mud. Trucks run up mud, boys. Get used to it. Two poems that appeared in a magazine that comes out of India called New Aesthetic. This is called florid psychosis. It's a technical term, real term, and I've done something a little bit different with that. On the advice of a friend, I stopped dreaming. As a result, I developed a florid psychosis in which everything I dreamed for the last 33 years is now real. I have new friends, a new job, my dead relatives have all come back, I'm half my weight, have all my hair, reside in Prague. It's February 1924. Kafka won't die until June. Freud, 67. He's just published The Ego and the Id. My superego refuses to read it. Lottie Reiniger is working on the cutouts for Prince Ahmed. I bought a radio embroidered with pearls. I tuned it to the future, but it only plays the sleepy past. This is called Dad and the Red Light. My father is 28 years old. He stopped at a light at Broad and Market. He sees a man in a tan jacket start to cross in front of him. All of a sudden, the man disappears. The light turns green. Confused, my father gets out and walks to the front of his car. A guy is face down on the asphalt, his head wedged in front of the passenger wheel. He selected my father as his agent of suicide. I've been held hostage by this story ever since I was told it when I was 14 or so. My dad was trying to teach me the importance of checking things out. Then I saw, all his life, wannabe suicides flit toward him like moths. He saved them all. A magazine called Blip. It was formerly the Mississippi Review, and it's called When the Translator Disappears, the Translation Withers and Dies. The kidnapping of the translator made big news for a short time, but then the general incomprehensibility of things resumed, and everyone except Lorraine went back to work. Lorraine refused to extend the futility of human communication. What was the point, she wanted to know? What was the point of speaking if now that the translator had been kidnapped, no one could decipher what she or anyone else had to say? Lorraine could not fathom how people could return to work. How was work even possible, she wondered? An iron silence began to oppress her as she slept. It crept into her body, and she felt herself incapable of raising her arms in greeting or to ward off a blow. She sunk deep into bitterness, dreading the dawn, and the sight of neighbors, egregious in their pretense of meaningful speech. She pined for the return of a translator who became messianic in her eyes. Her dreams became diminutive images, infused only with 2 lines of unvarying dialogue. Come back to me. Can't you see I've never left? It was the translator speaking. He was holding her in his arms. He was looking at her with the tenderness she so terribly craved. She felt suddenly as if for the first time understood. And she understood perfectly, the repressed caress of words that poured from his mouth. This is the poem entitled Things I Learned but No Longer Believe. Shakespeare had red hair. Van Gogh never painted a nude. Apollinaire was a pornographer. Satie wore corduroy suits. Schiller spit moldy apples. Edward Lear colored trees. Balzac used a raven's quill. Thompson survived TB. Sherwood Anderson was a Zionist. Zane Grey was a doc. Radiguet owned land in Lebanon. Mencken lived in Hock. Groucho read Eliot's eulogy. Thackeray seduced his maid. Dauber's dog was Mala. Rimbaud is buried in Marseille. Joyce was allergic to chocolate. Melville played the sax. Hart Crane had vegetable dreams. Chandler spayed his cats. Wolfe posed naked for Freud. Goethe was 4 feet tall. D.H. Lawrence voted for Eisenhower. Borges owned them all. Chekhov carded oysters. Stendhal sweated art. Poe proposed to Ligeia. Flaubert stole Baudelaire's heart. These are 2 poems from my chapbook, Wrench, and I have a couple copies today if you're interested in that as well. This is called Acute Amusement. Nostalgia is irrational. There's no good reason why I miss rotary phones as I do, or toll booths, or Super 8 film, or correction tape, $half. When I was 10 years old, my father gave me globules of mercury to play with. I used it to shine nickels and quarters and Roosevelt dimes. Endless fun dividing it with a stick and watching it recombine, smashing it to droplets, squishing it in my hand, the little silver bubble no longer imprisoned in a thermometer, but liberating to roll anarchically over glass countertops and ash floors. When I was tired of playing, I'd push the blob into a test tube and put it in my top pocket. The proximity of mercury is inductively comforting. This poem is apropos for tonight. It's called Truman Compote, but you'll see why it's apropos. When it rains, I can really think. Is that how it went? Well, maybe my memory is not watertight, but what is these days? My eyes widen at the coincidence of flashing verticals and the stolid columns of the world. I love that hopeless warfare. I always think of raindrops as the underdogs, the frail insurgents of heaven against the stumpy dictatorship of the material. But now the rivers are rising and the streets are bowed down to boats. The brick house can stand up to the big bad wolf, but not to the water cannons of the apocalypse. The rain is getting smarter. The storm clouds are overpopulating. The sky is scary. It's not your parents' revolution anymore, children. This one's called The Cave. It's not about Plato's cave, but it's about a different kind of cave. I looked in and saw myself, not reflected on the walls, but seated in a tufted chair, staring blankly at a screen. Music was playing, but it was not any music I understood. I was surprised that I was bald, but even more surprised to see my hair in clumps all over the floor. I was wearing my grandmother's sleeveless bathrobe. It barely covered my thighs. It was cold in the cave, AC cold, not February weather. A picture of photographs and a pile of greasy newsletters sat on a tray table to my left. Someone called my name, but it was not my name. That didn't stop him from insisting it was. Someone else was looking at me from the door, and from each of the 7 walls, I could smell breathing. Even the ceiling had eyes. I knew what I wanted to do, but I forgot that I knew. So I sat in that tufted chair and stared at the blank screen. The show was pretty good. This is a poem with a pun in the title. It's called Nan Sequitur. Nan Sequitur. Nan was a leader by default. She couldn't follow. She organized the orphans, the waitresses, the TAs, the paralegals, the instructional designers. If she saw a mob anywhere, she'd leap in and take control. There was no mess she couldn't manage, no chaos she couldn't tame. I met her in Manhattan, and I became her greatest challenge, for I was recalcitrant to order, reason, logic, and sense. She looked at me and saw someone who dressed in acid wash, read blindly, ate asparagus with ice cream, manufactured the past. Well, that was 20 years ago. Now, I only make sense. The poem is called Taffy Warriors. It's based on my childhood growing up on a boardwalk arcade in Ocean City, Maryland. Taffy Warriors. In 1958, everybody had a knife. So Bobby and I got knives. We carried them in beaded sheaths attached to our belts. We whittled at sticks. We played mumbly peg. We threw them at hardwood railroad spikes. In the summers, we took them to the beach to cut open mussels stuck between the jetty rocks. In the evenings, we ran down the rotting boardwalk, past Agatha's, past the custard stand, happy taffy warriors zigzagging the crowds, drunk halfbacks on a lit, slick field. Two more poems. This one is called A Piece of Him. It's dedicated to Gil. It has an epigraph from Hamlet, and it goes like this. Bernardo says, "What? Is Horatio here?" And Horatio says, "Piece of him. A piece of him." People who lose a leg to battle or disease often describe the feeling of having a phantom appendage, experiencing the sensation of still feeling the absent limb. When I lost you, I lost a piece of myself. I haven't felt whole since that day. It's not that I can't go on. I can. It's not that I can't think straight. I can. It's not that I can't focus. I can. It's that the future is now incomplete. It's that with your radical vanishing, the dignity of infinity is diminished. This one poem, it's a new poem, it's called I Can Take Satan. I took jiu-jitsu in high school, fencing at camp, kickboxing in trade school, and learned hermeneutics on the job. So I was pretty sure, given the improvements in steroids over the years, I could take Satan in a fight. It was all I was convinced in designing the encounter. I guess I could have studied Clausewitz, but I figured films, particularly films of the 40s and 80s, would suffice. And I was right. I was totally prepared. I knew everything about backstabbing and the double cross. So one evening, I sent the challenge, and he appeared. This was Satan, a figure of immaculate fun, a know-nothing, skin and bones wimp weasel of a runt. He came in hooded and robed, but I was just musing for his bruising. I felt ready for anything he could throw at me. And as I contemplated his paltriness, I grew confident in my ability to crush his guts. Well, he ran at me. Undaunted, I stood my ground, but as he ran at me, his hood flew back and revealed his head. It wasn't a head, it was a screen, upon which flashed a succession of images, each lasting only a millisecond, but long enough to register in my retina. Images of beauty, horror, excitement, artwork, statuary, landscape, portraits, the most beautiful photographs I had ever seen, the most interesting inventions, the greatest designs, oddities of nature, indices of action, the panorama of lust and longing, the book of color and shape and space, all of desire, flashing one right after the other, flashing. And I stood there, entranced, astounded, and amazed. And while I stood there enthralled, he struck me through. Thank you.
Now, do you have any upcoming performances that you'd like to tell?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, why don't you do that first?
This Friday, I'll be part of the program that Shelley Nation is running about. The Word Slinger. It's at St. Paul's Church. It's Friday night, 7:30 to 9:30, and I'll be one of 5 poets reading there. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, nothing was loud enough. Please give it up once more for Bill Yarrow. And check out the awesome chapel just
Thank you.
and everyone got to see it, but that's very cool. Thank you very much. Now, as I said, lucky him, this is going to be a podcast. You can check it out on iTunes, or you can go to chaoticarts.org/thecafe and check it out. It'll also be a YouTube clip. And I have to start talking about features that are coming up in the next month. Now, next week, actually, SC Walls, who had a mini feature in July and had a videotape performance, absolutely phenomenal woman, is going to be our feature next week. Now, Bob Lawrence is on August 23rd. Oh, yeah, Bob Lawrence! Woo! For Bob Lawrence. And Dave Betchett just changed his date. It was on the 16th of August, but now, August 30th. right before, the week before Labor Day. We'll have Dave Getchick, which means that on August 13th, if nobody comes up and takes a feature spot, will be a mini feature night for anybody that'd like to come up and do a long little mini feature night. Thank you all so very much. Check it out.